This bites. Your commercial's stupid, you're a no-talent hack, and your donuts are stale. I'm out of here. Fast, fast, fast.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. This is normally when we do This Week in X-Men, all the things happening in X-Men this week. And I've got to be honest, I already reviewed X-Corp number 1. I read Children of the Atom number 3. X-Factor came out this week, and I've had enough. I can't imagine anyone putting out 3 comics like in one like franchise being worse. I can't. There's no way the X-Men has ever had a worse week just as far as the quality of their comics than they had this week. So Doc and I are going to take it a little bit different direction. Obviously, I'm referring to the X-Men historian, the Marvel aficionado. Doc, how you doing?
Well, I'm glad to be here. I hate X-Men anymore.
Why would you release X-Corp, Children of the Atom, and X-Factor all in the same week? It's like
it's like they wanted to set their whole office on fire and just felt, hey, this is probably the best way. Like, do we want everyone to hate us? Yeah, this is how we do it.
Absolutely, it's effective. I don't even want to talk about it. So we're going to talk about the X-Men line as it is, and how can we save it, Doc? Now, I know your first inclination is going to be we shit can the whole thing and reboot it. We can't do that. You know, House of X Powers at 10 wasn't that long ago. We have some decent comic books in here, and let's try to work with what we have. If we were replacing Jordan White, because he would never be smart enough or competent enough to even conceive of any of these ideas, let alone execute them correctly. In my opinion, the biggest problem that you have to address first, Doc, is there are too many titles in X-Men right now.
Yes, I mean that's a major problem. There's too many titles. There's too many that are listless, if not repetitive. Look, X-Men, outside of Wolverine and really Cable, there's no X-Men individual character that has historically been able to carry their own title. So as a result, the X books are generally going to be team books. The problem is there's not even enough good team members. There's not enough good characters. You can't have 3 or 4 D-list X-Men on every single book and expect it to sell. You can have one book of all D-list characters from time to time if all the rest of your titles are mostly A and B list characters, but you can't do it. There's not enough good X-Men or interesting X-Men to fill out the rosters of all these teams and titles that they're publishing. You got there obviously needs to be an X-Men book. That's clear. You obviously need a Wolverine book because he's the only character there that can carry his own solo title,
and it's fine right now. Most everything that's been in Ben Percy's Wolverine has been good, if not much better.
If they're going to explore kind of the Nightcrawler religion stuff, Way of X has potential for working there.
A miniseries. There needs to be miniseries fleshing this thing out. Maybe 1 or 2 going on at a time, around 4, perhaps 5 just core books that are ongoings. That's my plan.
That would probably work very, very well. Excalibur, I have no idea what even the point of it is at this point.
There's no need for Excalibur. It doesn't tie into anything that's been introduced that was interesting, and it's basically at this point literary nonsense. These are the books that I would have. I would keep X-Men. Certainly, I would keep Wolverine. I would keep Hellions because it's really the highest quality book that they have right now. It's kind of like Suicide Squad, so it kind of has its place to where it's kind of doing Mr. Sinister's dirty deeds on the side, which we know Mr. Sinister plays a huge role in the long game of what Jonathan Hickman was setting up. So we'll keep that one, X-Force, and then we have to have one of the hoity-toity titles that just sucks. We'll keep Marauders.
Yeah, I can see Marauders continuing to exist. It serves a purpose. Even if it's a stupid purpose, even if like the whole X-Men as global drug dealers is,
I think it's supposed to be swashbuckling pirates, but I get you.
Yeah, but it's still antithetical to the X-Men, but whatever. Why don't they just sell Kick while they're at it, or mutant growth hormone? But regardless, I would actually probably eliminate X-Force as much as I like it. I think X-Force and Sword could kind of get merged into one book, where you're dealing with
the X-Force members team up with Wolverine in his solo book if he needed help.
Yeah, and especially now that you have you've reestablished an X-Men team. X-Force is redundant as a security group. That's kind of what, security and superheroics is kind of what the X-Men team would do. So I would eliminate X-Force. I would do Sword, because I do think that, especially with the like the phalanx and the global kind of ramifications, the universal level that that Hickman was trying to push the X-Men into, with especially with having the Orcus station with the Forge, right near the sun, you obviously need a space presence.
Yeah.
So I would stick with Sword, X-Men, Hellions. Yeah, I would go with Hellions. Honestly, I can't disagree with your list. That's a pretty solid list.
Yeah. Remove X-Force, put in Sword. You're getting X-Force flavor anyway in the Wolverine book. It was already somewhat redundant. And he can have some solo adventures. Heck, you could even put a backup X-Force story in there if you want to. If they want to charge so much, they can at least give you 12 pages of extra story.
Exactly. And to be perfectly honest, the X-Force book hasn't been an actual team yet. I mean, it started off with like a cover of a whole team, and I don't think all of them have actually been on the roster at the same time yet. So
I think one time Quentin and Domino and Wolverine went out. Obviously, they're like the operations arm that.
But by then, Jean had quit, and Colossus was in jail. He never even joined in the first place. So
yeah, he never was a part of that team, was he?
No, but he was supposed to be. So
he's cosplaying as the Duke of something.
The Duke of Douchery.
Whatever. So there we go. So we'll cut down the line to like 4, maybe 5 core books, and we'll supplement it with miniseries like Way of X, like X-Men versus Fantastic Four. We've obviously got Children of the Atom. We're not going to do that, but we'll do things in that nature. So we can explore other avenues, other portions of the X-Men universe that maybe don't warrant ongoing, but could use further, fleshing out just as far as storytelling. And I think that would be a much more manageable line. You would never have more than 2 miniseries going on at once.
I would agree there. I think 7 books as your absolute max is, even that's asking a lot, because you're essentially asking people to buy 2 books a month or 2 books a week for 3 weeks of each month, and 1 book on the 4th. I think that's a reasonable ask.
Yeah. So let's get to the creators. This is probably the second biggest problem, if not the biggest problem. Jonathan Hickman should be on the X-Men title. Jerry Duggan shouldn't be sniffing anything remotely close to a flagship title anywhere. His work is not warranted. His sales do not warrant it. And he's he's a poser, whatever. Get him off there. We'll keep Jonathan Hickman on X-Men. Zeb Wells needs to stay on Hellions. We'll keep, obviously, Ben Percy on Wolverine. I don't even want I don't even want Jerry Duggan on Marauders, to be completely honest. If we're going to keep the book, they can find somebody better than that. And then Al Ewing. So you round it out with some pretty good creators. Supplement it with some good talent. Your Chip Zdarsky type writers coming in and doing a miniseries here and there. Looks like Simon Spurrier's got some type of hand on Way of X. And, it's time to cut the chaff, like cut the fat out of the X-Men room in that Zoom call with the really, really bad ideas that have been sinking the ship for a long time. And, I don't know if we need a completely fresh coat of paint as far as the creators, but we need to get rid of the real shit ones.
Yeah, I would agree. Obviously, Tinny needs to just go. I don't care what she does.
She needs to be writing a Harry Potter comic book that she always wanted.
Yeah, I mean, like, have her go write. They work for Disney now. Go write a Fantasia comic. It'll probably be fun for her. But you know what? I could see bringing Kelly Thompson back into the office because her Mr. and Mrs. X series was surprisingly well done. It wasn't the best thing. It wasn't amazing by any stretch, but bring her in for a mini series.
Ed Brisson, bring him in on a mini series.
Yeah. Because I know we're going to get accused, of, well, you're just getting rid of all the women. Well, no,
I want to get rid of Jerry Duggan too.
I want to get rid of Jerry Duggan too. And so I have no problem with,
no, bring Louise Simonson in. Let her do some X Factor miniseries.
You know what? Yeah. I mean, oh, wait, that's a book that can't go away. X-Men Legends. Although I don't necessarily consider it part of the X Office.
Nah. Some thing.
But yeah, bring in Louise and Walt. Have them do ask them if they want to do a modern, Reign of X era miniseries. They definitely still got the chops for it.
Yeah. Bring in Peter David on a miniseries. That's all he's doing right now. He's kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah. You could bring in, I think the last, like, what on one of these books, they need to have like a rotating classic X creator that's involved on one of them.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a
miniseries on something that they want to explore. And I think we would all be better for it.
I think so too. Although it might take some of the specialness away from X-Men Legends, and I don't want that to happen.
Well, those guys, those stories are fleshing out classic things that never were resolved. It's hard to take the specialness away of that has a place, and it clearly has a role within Marvel Comics. Hopefully, it keeps going on. I'm not sure what the long-term plans are for that. So, we'll cut down the creator line. And here's the thing that really needs to be addressed. I think it's the problem that most people don't even realize is just like staring them in the face. You have this big X-Men line. You have all these things established in House of X Powers of 10 by Jonathan Hickman that need exploring. Whether it be the Phalanx, whether it be Moira X's timeline. We did explore Arakko in a very unsatisfying manner because it got crossed over with some stupid shenanigans in Otherworld. Whenever you have the Dawn of X, Reign of X, whenever you have these eras, where there should be a singular, maybe not a singular focus, but an overall focus for the titles that they're all working towards at the end. And that way, when you do your big crossover event, it actually makes sense for them all to be there and fighting this thing together.
Yeah,
because
of course.
They're just throwing everything together at the last minute, and it's just like really random and it's really stupid, and nothing like ties together at all.
No, there's no sense of cohesion during these eras these segments, these chapters of the Hickman era. You have, like, they did X of Swords and brought everything together, but then immediately after that, everybody just goes and fucks off to whatever the hell they were doing again before. And plus
it was tackling two different overall story arcs. You had the Arakko, Apocalypse, original Four Horsemen, What the hell happened to them? Are we going to bring them back? And you had this stupid stuff happening on Shenanigans where Saturnine is obsessed with Brian Braddock and the new Captain Britain Corps. And it was just stupid to combine these two things. Don't go in two different directions. Go in one direction. That way, when you have your crossover, it fucking makes sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they at that point, that event was a platypus. They just stuck a duck and a beaver together, and that's what you got. And it's about as laughable as a platypus. But so...
Yeah. And you wouldn't have to waste your time with these stupid Hellfire Gala events. I imagine there's probably going to be some big happenings. They're probably going to be all spoiled by Marvel's marketing and promotion offices, if you haven't noticed that, by the time we get there. But it's a stupid thing to be advertising. Where is X-Force heading to this Hellfire Gala? How is X-Men heading toward this Hellfire Gala? How is any of this stuff heading for this big dinner party?
Nothing.
It's just there.
They're just going to tack something on in the last 3 pages of the month before to explain why they're going to the dinner party the next month. It doesn't matter if they're in the middle of a covert op in Latveria. Oh, well, we'll tack something into the middle, and then they all fly home to go to the dinner party so that the next month they can come back. It's half-assed, poor. There's no planning to this. Look, I don't care how many hours a day they spend on their Zoom calls and their Slack channels talking about what they're doing. There's no cohesion to this, and none of it actually brings anything together.
Yes, if you want to cross all these titles over once or twice a year, there has to be a logical crossing point to where these story arcs all kind of merge into one thing where it turns out they're all fighting the same thing, or this kind of leads into this, and then you get there. Just having a dinner party doesn't cut it. A 12-issue dinner party, that's stupid. Even if big things happen, it's the idea in itself is a failure. And I know we're going to get another big event, in October. Dawn of X should have concluded with Ten of Swords, and it should have been the big, fight between Krakoa and Arakko, where we learn that Destiny never died, and now that she's leading the army of Amonth and all that kind of stuff. And if that was fleshed out and it made sense for why all these things were coming together, it probably would have been a cool event that not everybody would have been pissed off when it ended up being 20 freaking chapters or whatever it ended up being total.
Yeah.
But when you just throw everything back together at the end piecemeal, we're like, yeah, see what we did for you? It's like you didn't do anything. You did the least amount of work possible to get to this point. If you guys talk together all the time, why does none of this stuff line up?
None of it makes sense. None of it connects. None of it, back in the day, you'd have little B plots going on in the background of all different books, and they'd all come together for the events. None of this has that, at all. There's, you're not seeing anything where Xeno group in X-Force is somehow connected to Arcade in Hellions, that is somehow connected to the Children of the Vault. There's no connection there. There's no connective tissue. These are just 12 titles that are going off, wandering in their own directions, and then somehow we have an expectation. You expect us to buy that there's something that brings them together. There's nothing that brings them together.
Yeah, and they expect you to be excited for it. There's nothing to be excited for. I don't want something that crosses over into a bunch of books I don't read because I think they're boring and, quite frankly, completely unnecessary and stupid. If you want me to go over and read that book, you better sell it to me. You better give me a good goddamn reason why I need to go spend my money on something I haven't been paying attention to. And they're just not doing it. So those are the 3 things I think are the problem. There's too many titles. There's way too many bad creators on the X-Men line right now. They need to keep a few of them in there, bring some people in to supplement. But 3, there needs to be an overall strategic goal point of view, meeting point for these big events if you're going to do them annually. Like in October, it should be the big showdown with Xeno. Finally, the pieces of Xeno kind of fall together, and we realize it's been much bigger than we knew all along, and we get this big climactic battle. So those are the three things I think, Doc, and we kind of talked about it. Is there anything else that you think absolutely has to get fixed before the X-Men line can really be functional as it is right now?
There needs to be some degree of heroic nature to these characters. I feel, I know that a lot of the Hickman era X fans don't have a problem with this, but they are not heroes at all. And if you want to turn X-Men just into the mutants, and that's fine, but stop trading on the X-Men name, because there needs to be a heroic nature to these characters, and they've completely lost that.
No, they're villains. Almost everything they do is villainous.
Yeah. I legitimately couldn't.
I don't care who wins between them and the Russians.
Yeah, I legitimately can't tell you the difference right now between Charles Xavier and Doctor Doom. They're
Doctor Doom's a little bit more bright. He doesn't seem to want to take over the entire world at the very moment.
Yeah, he just wants Latveria to be left the hell alone and to rule in peace.
Yeah, he seems a little bit more more heroic than Charles Xavier right now. You were right. There definitely needs to be. If these are superheroes, they need to be heroes. They need to be portrayed as heroes. Their actions need to be heroic.
They need a bit. There needs to be some degree of a moral compass to Krakoa, if you expect me to buy it as something that I should be cheering for, because as it stands right now, I want the extinction of mutants, because they're terrible people doing terrible things and trying to rule the world. This is Magneto's dream with Charles in charge.
Charles in charge. Well, it's time to bring Wanda back and let her do her thing. Fix the problem.
Yeah, I mean, or we could just keep giving Tinny Howard books and letting her write the worst comic I've read in a decade in X-Corps.
I think I've read some things that might have been worse, but it's vying for a really dubious spot. That was a piece of trash.
Yeah.
I know you said you haven't been able to read a comic book since.
I have not. I tried picking up like 3 other comics that I had that I was actually looking forward to, and I got disgusted. I tried reading something that I wasn't looking forward to with Children of the Atom, and I got through a page and I was like, I can't do this.
Something similar happened like 5 weeks ago. I read something really bad. I think it was Children of the Atom. Number 2, we talked about it here on the channel. And I was like, I was catatonic whenever I opened a comic book. I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, like my brain wouldn't even focus on the words. It's like it just rejected it and said, "No, you just tortured me for 25 minutes reading this other piece of crap, and I won't let you do it to me again." It didn't matter what comic it was. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll read this. Nope. My brain wouldn't even like let me read the words, and I just closed them up and set them aside.
Those are our ideas on how we would fix the current X-Men line. We're not just going to shit can the whole thing. We would try to fix it as it is. I don't know that it's doable, but I think that would be a good direction to go. If you have an idea on what would you do? What's the first thing that you would do to fix the current iteration of X-Men? Let us know in the comments section. We're eager to hear from you guys and start a conversation, because I imagine we're not the only ones frustrated.
No, there's no way that we're the only ones frustrated. Just do something with Orcus, please.